and we're going to kick it off with Terra. And Terra, if you could start with your transit story.
Sure.
And then talk to us about how you work with transit and how it helps you with your work in the Gorge.
Great. So I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Kazakhstan between 2003 and 2005. And growing up in suburbia, I didn't have a lot of opportunities to ride transit. So my first real transit experience was as a Peace Corps volunteer. And in former Soviet states, Central Asia, they use a mini bus on kind of a fixed variable route called a marshutka. And it was just a driver in a bus, like a minivan, and you would get on, pay your 15 cents. You have to stand on the correct side of the road to know which way you were going. And this was like the workhorse of all of the transit in these former Soviet states. And people would bring anything on the bus: goats, chickens, families, furniture. One very memorable ride, it was a young gentleman's birthday, and they brought, I think, a liter of vodka. And if you know anything about Soviet society, you do shots for everything. So it was a very boisterous and vodka-soaked experience. So that's my transit story. And I've been sold ever since. My name is Terra Lingley. I'm the Columbia River Gorge National Scenic Area Coordinator for ODOT. And I've been asked to speak about how transit helps me in my role. As a state Department of Transportation representative, congestion and safety and congestion are our two top priorities to address, especially in the Gorge. And when you think of congestion, you think of rush hour, people going from their homes to their jobs and then back again, schlepping kids, all of that. Congestion in the Gorge is very different. It is any nice day. It is weekends primarily, Friday through Monday. Friday through Monday, between Memorial Day and Labor Day. Or if Multnomah Falls looks particularly stunning at any point in the year. So my point is, it's not predictable. It is very variable, and it's really hard to address. So in 2015, there was the Gorge Tourism Studio, where they laid out the 15-year vision for transportation in the Gorge, which I'm going to paraphrase because it's a long paragraph, but people can move throughout the Gorge without needing to use a private vehicle. You can get anywhere you want to go without hopping in your private vehicle. And whether that be by walking, by biking, by taking transit, regional trails, et cetera. So that was kind of the starting point. And then we were gearing up for the 100-year celebration of the historic Columbia River Highway. And we knew that there were going to be a series of events. And so out of that vision from the Columbia Gorge Tourism Studio and looking ahead to the congestion, we stood up what is now the Columbia Gorge Express. And I think it was called that from the beginning. So we did a transit project, a planning project, because I'm a planner. I love to plan. So you need a document to kind of tell you where you're going to go to reach your goals. So we knew that we were having increased vegetation. We knew that there's limited parking, and we're never going to expand parking in the Gorge, given the National Scenic Area protections. There are safety issues, and it's not necessarily the traditional people crashing into people safety issues. It's emergency vehicles can't get where they need to go because congestion is so complicated. So when you have a search and rescue need, and the historic highway is backed up for miles, that is not a great consequence, or that is not a great outcome. So all of these things kind of led us to looking at what we needed to do to address safety and congestion in the Gorge. So like I said, we stood up the Columbia Gorge Express. It operated in 2016, was our inaugural year. We had 29,000 trips, and it was just operating from Rooster Rock to Multnomah Falls. We did not go into the city of Portland. So people would drive to Rooster Rock, exit 25. They would hop on a bus. Sometimes they would stand in line for hours. There were some kinks to work out when we first, because we had no idea how many people would take it. So that was a huge success. I think we had 500 trips per day, or boardings per day. So it was huge, and that really opened our eyes that transit could work in the Gorge. And we also recognize that transit, because we did this planning study, transit wasn't going to be the only option. It needed to be one piece of a larger puzzle. In 2017, again, we operated. 2017 was a banner year for a number of reasons, fire included. We actually dropped down to 27,000 trips, but that's because we had fewer days because the Eagle Creek fire shut us down prematurely. In 2018, we had 88,000 trips. In 2019, we partnered with CAT, and they took over the Columbia Area Transit, and they took over the service. So ODOT was running, with a contractor with buses, et cetera, to make that happen. Some of the things that we're continuing to work on. So 2019 is really when we turned over CAT, and then the world fell apart. So, but it has since recovered, which is amazing. The other thing that we do is, I'm the program manager for the historic Columbia River Highway State Trail. All of our trailheads are designed to be transit accessible. So Mitchell Point Tunnel, if anyone has been there, it's only been open for about a month or a couple of weeks. That you'll notice that there's a circular trailhead, and in our openings or our dedication celebration in November, we required everyone to take a shuttle, and they were on 54 passenger motor coaches, and every single one of those was full during the celebration, and people took transit. One, because we made them, but two, because the parking lot is not big enough to accommodate the 500 people that showed up at that celebration. So again, it's a piece of the puzzle. It's not the entire puzzle. But we want to make sure that that isn't a future option. We're also currently designing the trailhead in the city of Hood River at Ruthven County Park, which will become Ruthven Trailhead. That is also incorporating a transit turnaround, because again, Ruthven Trailhead will only have about 19 parking spaces on it. And the connection between Hood River on the historic highway, we're working on it. We have a plan. Remember, back to the planning. We have a plan to get people there by bikes and by foot, but we know that, again, transit is going to be the puzzle piece. And that's all I wanted to say.
Thanks so much, Terra.